Okay, welcome back over here, everybody, to our Motzei Shabbos Marathon. Thank you for your patience. I always give you little anecdotes and vignettes that I'm always troubling, making you wait, pushing the Kol Lashon and the TorahAnytime.com and everything. Ask Aaron what it meant to him to hear us learn for him on the Mishnah Yomi right before he went into surgery. And that's the value of what we do with Kol Lashon and with TorahAnytime.com. I had in shul this Shabbos last night a young man davening for the Amid Mariv, and the father told me that he finished Shas Mishnayos with us on Kol Lashon, and he learned the entire Seder Moyed Gemara on Kol Lashon. This is a young man that for sure wasn't older than 17 years old. And my good friend Yossi Tov told me that he met in Flatbush a Heimish Hasidic man who says, I've been learning Chok for 30 years, but I love to learn with your friend Rabbi Weiss the Chok. So, the time that we spend over here, is giving us all a chelik and Habatzas Torah all over the world. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry throughout the Masechta with the very vital prayer that children should get into yeshiva with ease, with pleasantness. It should be a happy experience for parents. You should know, A.B., I don't remember saying something, getting such hartziger amens from people. It's mamish, people say such a hartziger amen.
Thank you.
Tajma, 2 lines from the bottom of Lamed Ches Amid Beis. Tajma, Hamakdish Avdai, if you dedicate your Eved, Oise v'oichel, because that Eved can work and eat. Why? Shaloi hikdish eladamav. That which he was makdish is not the Eved's handiwork. He was makdish the value of the Eved. So, says the Gemara, this is a kasha on Rabbah. Rabbah says that he means Am Kadeshecha. So the Gemara says, Hamani Reb Meir he. This is going according to Reb Meir, who says that since a person can't be makdish an Eved, because an Eved is not fit for the Mizbeach, he's not fit for Bedek Habayis, for temple maintenance, so Rameir says, Ein Adam Moitzi Dvarav Levatala, and therefore Rameir says it must mean that he meant that he's being makdish the Eved for his value. Hamani Rameir, he damer Ein Adam Moitzi Dvarav Levatala. And Hachinami Mistabra, the Ktani Seifa, Vechein Hu Shehikdish Atzmai, if a person is makdish himself, Oise v'oichel, he eats, he works and he eats, Shaloi hikdish eladamav. So the Gemara says, I amrit b'shleimer Reb Meiri, that since ein adam moitzi dvar levatala, it's therefore we interpret it to mean that he's being makdish his value shopper. Eliyam rabbanani b'shleimer avdai, when he says his eved, there we interpret it that it means l'demekai, that he's dedicating the eved, that his value, that the Gizber could sell the Eved for his value. But a Yid can't give himself to Hektish even for his value to sell him as a slave. You can't do that with a Yid. And therefore, it must be going according to a mayor. It must be going according to a mayor, and we interpret it to mean that he's not saying the person himself, but his value. So the Gemara says, Lema Ketanoi, let's say it's dependent on the following machlokes Tanoim. Hamakdish Avdoi, if you makdish your servant, ain't Moilin by, there's no Me'ila. Reb Shimon Gamliel, I'm a Moilin Besara, there's Me'ila with his hair. Maila Av, B'hakam Iflagi, that this is what they're arguing about. The Mar Savar Kaddish, one says that if you're mafkir your Eved, he becomes Kaddish for his value. Umar Savalai Kaddish. And the other one holds that he's not sanctified, but rather he goes free because I'm Kadeshecha Karma. Says Gemara, so then it shouldn't say whether it is Mila or not, it should say whether he's Hektish or not. But what does it say if there's Mila or not? Hi Kaddish Ve'ena Kaddish Mabayla. It should say whether he's Kaddish or not. Ela de Kuli Alma Kaddish. Here everybody holds that if you're Makdish, your Eved, he's Kaddish for his value, that the Gizber could sell him as a slave. V'hacha b'hakam ifligi. And here they're arguing as follows. If you use the Eved that you were Makdish, is there Me'ila? Because there is no Me'ila by Karkois. By real estate, there's no Me'ila. That's a din. Real estate of Hektish, there's no Me'ila. So the shaila is whether we say Avda Kimekarkoi Dami or Kimetaltalei Dami. The Marasav Avda Kimekarkoi Dami, and there's no Me'ila. Or Marasav Kimetaltalei Dami, and there is Me'ila. Says the Gemara, then why does it talk about his hair? It should just talk about the Evan himself. Iachi had miflagi b'sara liflagi b'gufa. Should argue about his body. So the Gemara says, really, everybody holds an Evan is like Karka. And therefore there's no Mila. But it's talking about where he has luxurious hair that's ready to be cut. If we say Kala Aimid Ligazes Kagazes dummy, then the hair is metaltalin. So in the Evan himself there's no Mila. Here it's talking about his hair is ready to be cut. Mar Savar Kagazes dummy, Kala Aimid Ligazes Kagazes dummy, and therefore has a din of metaltalin, and therefore there's Mila. Or Mar Savar Lav Kagazes dummy. And the Gemara says we have a similar machlokes like this. Leima hani tanoi kahani tanoi. That this machlokes is like the following machlokes. The Tanan, Reb Meir Aimer, yesh dvarim shehin kikarka. There are things that are like karka, but ve'ein on kikarka, but they're not karka. However, ve'ein chachamim meidel meid. The chacham don't agree. Now we're moving on to a different area. And that's the area of Moida b'mikzas, you have to swear. If you admit partial admission, you have to swear. But einish b'an al karkos, you don't swear on karka. So here again we have a situation of something that's ready to be cut off the karka. Ketzad, eser gafonim tu'unim tu'unis masarti lach. I tell Shelley, 10 laden vines I've given you. Now the vines are attached to the ground, but they're full of grapes. And Shelley says, no, you didn't give me 10, you gave me 5. So he's made the mixes. Rameya says Shelley has to swear. Since the grapes are attached to the ground, it has a din of karka, and Shelley doesn't have to swear on karka. It's talking about grapes that are ready to be vintaged. That color it's as if it was already harvested, and therefore it's metaltal, and therefore Shelley has to swear. They're still attached. Says well, it's not a good comparison to the hair. See, the grapes that are ready to be harvested, the longer you leave them on, they begin to deteriorate. So maybe over there, Rameya says it's as if it's harvested. But the hair, the longer you leave it on the Evet's head, the more valuable it becomes to be used to make a sheitel out of it. Okay? Afilu Tamer Rameir Adkan like Rameir Hasam Elabanovim by grapes. The kaiman, the longer you leave it on the Evet, the longer you leave it on the vine, michish khishe, the grapes start deteriorating. When they're ready to be harvested, you got to harvest them, otherwise they begin to spoil. But But by the hair, the longer the hair is on the slave's head, it improves. So maybe we don't say it's as if it was cut off. Kisalik Reb Chia by Yosef. By the way, Rabbi say, for 2 blot of this Gemara, if a yeshiva would be learning these 2 blot, they would spend at least 4 weeks on them. And we're doing it in one night. Bravo to all of you. Bravo to all of you. Kisolik Reb Chia bar Yosef, when Reb Chia bar Yosef went to Eretz Yisrael, Omer lahai shmaitza de Rav kamei de Rabbi Yochanan. He said this dictum of Rav, that if you're mafker and eved, he goes lecheres to Rabbi Yochanan. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan said, Amar Rav hachi? Does Rav hold this way? Now the Gemara assumes that since Rabbi Yochanan is surprised that he doesn't hold Hamafker Av lecheres, Hamafker Av Yatzel lecheres. So the Gemara asks, V'hu lo Amar hachi? Did Rabbi Yochanan not say that? V'amarul Rabbi Yochanan Hamafker Av Yatzel lecheres. V'tzarech get shichra. It needs a writ of emancipation, unlike Shmuel. So the Gemara says that's not what Rabbi Yochanan meant. Rabbi Yochanan was surprised that Rav agrees with him, that he has a colleague in Rav. Hachi kamali, Amar Rav Kavasi, v'ikadamre, and some say lo yisaimua kamei. They didn't finish when they told Rabbi Yochanan. They didn't finish off. They just said Rav said I'm after Abdi Yatzel Cheres. They didn't say he needs to get shikra. So Rabbi Yochanan says Amalei v'loy Amar Rav tzarich get shikra. Does Rav not hold that he needs to get shikra? Rabbi Yochanan tamei. Rabbi Yochanan goes according to his reason. Remember, Shmuel says he doesn't need to get shikra because it's not an Eved Ish anymore. The Amar Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mafka Abdi Yatzel Cheres with tzarich get shikra. It needs a writ of emancipation. Gufa. Now we're going to analyze this. Gufa. And also, by the way, I just want to say that I am grateful that the Olam is tolerating the late hour. It's greatly appreciated that everybody is working with our schedule, especially in Har Nof. Gufa. Amar Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hamafker Avdai, if you free your slave, Yatzel Cheres v'tzarich get shikra, and he needs a writ of emancipation. So Eisvei Rav Abba Ula. So Rav Abba asked the following question to Ula: Ger shemes, a ger that dies. Now, you know that Philippe has his ear always to the police radio to hear if a ger dies, because he wants to grab all of the property. Right? There's no Yoshin. So ger shemes ubizbezu Yisrael nechasav, and Philippe gets on his scooter and takes hold of all the property. V'haya ben avodim, and there's servants there, ben gedolim ben ketanim, whether the servants are adults or minors. Before Philippe got there, they already acquired their freedom. The adults acquired their own freedom. Well, they fall into the hands of Philippe. The question is, who wrote for them a get shikra? The ger died. It says that they acquire their freedom. It sounds like they acquire their freedom even to marry a Bas Yisrael. But who wrote for them the chi mi kasav get shikra la'elu? So here the Gemara says, very strong language. Amar, Domi Hai Midrabanan, this rabbi who asked this question, seems to be kidoloi gomrei inchei shmeitz, like somebody who didn't learn the sugya well. The time am I? Why? He asked a good question. Who wrote a get shechur? Amar of Nachman Kesavar Ula Avdoi de Ger Ki Ishtoi. An eved of a ger is like his wife. Just like his wife, if the ger dies, she doesn't need a get. So if the ger dies, the eved doesn't need a get. Ma Ishtoi Mishtaleches B'loi Get. If he dies, she doesn't need a get. Af Avdoi Mishtaleches B'loi Get. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, if that's the case, Afrilu Yisrael Nami. If a Yid dies, the Evet should also go free. Says the Gemara, no, there it says that if a Yid dies, his slaves are inherited by his children. You transmit them to your children after you as a possession of inheritance. Says the Gemara, Ihachi amafker avdoi umeis nami. If you are mafker your eved, and before you wrote him a get shikhr, if let's say Chatzkel is mafker his eved, and before he writes a get shikhr, he dies, then he should go free. Says the Gemara, Alama Amar Ameimer af mafker avdoi umeis. If somebody relinquishes his eved and dies before he gets a chance to make get shikhr, Oisa eved ain't like takana. He can't marry a Jewish woman. Says Gemara, you're right. The Ameimer kasha, that teaching of Ameimer we don't understand, because ain't a chanami. If he's mafker him and then he dies, it should be like the ger that dies, and it should be that you don't need a get shikhr. Just like if he dies, his wife wouldn't need a get shikhr. 3 lines from the bottom of Lamed Tes Amud Aleph. Tremendous schar. It's not easy at this hour to learn 2 hard blat. Bravo to everyone. We'll learn for Avigdor Aryeh ben Rivka. Shav Rafur Shalem B'Sek Shachar Yisrael. Amar Reb Yaakov bar Idi. Amar Reb Yeshua ben Levi. Halacha ke'abashol. Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi says that the law is like abashol, that the adults go free, the children go to Philippe. Philippe, you better take good care of them. Children go to Philippe. Amalei Reb Zeira Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi. So Reb Zeira asks Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Befeirish Shmielach, did you hear this psak outright from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Ay mechlola shmila lach. Or was it inferred from him? So the Gemara says, well, where would be the inference? My klola. Where would you infer that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi holds that only the adults go free, but the children can't acquire themselves, and therefore Philippe comes along and gets him? Where do you see that from a dictum of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, for Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Amru lifnei Rebbe. The Talmidim said the following question before Rebbe. Amru lifnei Rebbe. Aman nisya ashti miploini avdi. What happens if Chatzkel says, I give up hope of ever getting back Tony, my servant? Mao, what's the din? Oimer lahem, so Rebbe said to them, Oimer ani, ein lo takona ela b'shtar. He cannot marry unless he gives him a shtar shechra. V'am Rabbi Yochanan, my time of the Rebbe, what's the reason of Rebbe? Gamar lo lo me'isha. Learn how to say Rishava lo lo me'isha. Ma'isha b'shtar, just like a woman needs a shtar in order to be able to marry. Af even nami b'shtar. V'kadaikis mina, and you want to infer from this, remember, this is Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that said this, that we said this before Rabbi, v'kadaikis mina ke'isha. Ma isha isura v'loy mamayna, that just like a woman only needs a shtar to remove the isser, but not the money, she only needs a shtar to remove the isser, but not money. Right, because by a woman it's just to remove her isser of an ashes ish. So af eved nami isura v'loy mamayna. Now, so therefore, we see that since Rebbe was talking about a slave, where you free him, he gets monetary rights. That's only talking about an adult and not a minor. So therefore, the din of that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was saying in the name of Rebbe had to do only with an adult and not a minor. So the Gemara says, okay, so if it's an inference, it's a good inference. So I'm going to relay adarab, doik mi no leidach, you could be medaik the other way. Mo isha ben gedayla ben ketana, she goes free whether she's an adult or a minor. Af evanami ben gadol ben ketana. It's true that the Eved would go free whether he's an adult or a minor. And then Philippe would not be able to be Zeicha because once the Ger died, even the minor went free. Amalei, so he says, you're right, it's not from an inference, but Feirish Milei. I heard it outright. Now, just a little bit of a different version. Same thing, but a little bit of a different version. I didn't welcome Sandy Grunfeld, who's watching patiently on Facebook over here. So welcome. Rab Chia bar Abba Omer Rab Yochanan, ein halacha k'Abishol. The halacha is not like Abishol, but the child also goes free. Not only does the adult go free when the ger died, but the child goes free too. Amalei Rab Zera Rab Chia bar Abba b'ferish shmilach, oy mechlol shmilach. Did you hear this expressly from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Excuse me, did you hear this expressly from Rabbi Yochanan or not? My klala. What would be the inference? The Amr Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amru lefnei Rebbe. We said before Rebbe, Nisyashti meploini avdi mau. What happens if the master says, I gave up hope from recovering my Eved? Amalahem Aimrani ein loy takana el b'shtar. He could only marry a Beis Yaakov girl if he gets a shtar. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, here's the Rabbi Yochanan. My time of the Rebbe, Gamal Lola Ma'isha. He learns out Lola Ma'isha, Ma Isha b'shtar, just like a woman is with a shtar. Af Eved Nami b'shtar. So you want to send away an Eved, Isha is a shtar, so an Eved is also b'shtar. V'kadaikis mina, and we medaik Isha, Ma Isha ben Gedayla ben Ketana, that both the adult and the minor need a shtar. Af Eved Nami ben Gadol ben Katan. It could be either an adult or a minor. So we see that even the minor that was freed acquires ownership and only needs to get shechur to marry. But this is not like Abishol, who says that he doesn't even go free the minor because he can't acquire himself. So the Gemara says, "V'ima chlolamai." So if it's an inference, it seems to be a clear inference that Rabbi Yochanan holds not like Abishol. Adarabba, doik mina lahakis. Ma isha isura v'loy mamayna. We're talking about only isur and not monetarily. Af Eved nami isura v'loy mamayna. It's also talking about to remove the prohibition, but not monetary. And remember, therefore, we're only talking about an adult slave that has monetary rights and not a minor. So then it wouldn't be a raya, not like Abishol. Amalei. So he said, no, I heard Beferish Mi'alach, I heard Beferish from Rabbi Yochanan, that he says that we don't pass like Abba Shaul, and both the adult slave and the minor slave go free. Amamar, Amalahem, Oymerani, Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that if a man said, I give up of recovering my slave, for the slave to be able to marry a Jewish woman, she needs to get a shtar shechra. He needs to get a shtar shechra. Says Gmavatanya, Rebbe Omer Ani, Afu Noising Dmei Atzmai V'Yotzei, that if he's makdish and avid, he could give money for himself. Excuse me, if a person is makdish and avid and the giver sells him, so he could give money for himself and he goes out free. So it seems to be that he could redeem himself and go free even without a get shechur. Says the Gemara, Hachi Kama. What it means is, Oy bekesef, if you buy yourself, you could buy your right, or somebody, if you buy yourself, you could buy yourself to marry either with money or with a shtar. But Vahai, in this case, if he was miyayish, so then pakale kaspe, his right over the eved is burst. In other words, it went off, and therefore the eved didn't purchase himself, and therefore, in order for him to be able to marry a Bas Yisrael, you need to have a shtar. Ulafuke mehaitana, and it's to exclude the following Tana. The Tanya of Shimon Aimer Mishim Rabbi Kiva, Yochel Yehei Kesef Gomer Ba. I might think that if somebody purchases the slave's freedom, or somebody gives the slave money, Shein l'Rabba Rishuspa, and he purchases his own freedom, I might think he could marry a Bas Yisrael Kedech Shtar Gomer Ba, like a shtar helps. Talmud Leimer. Now this is talking about a very, very unusual case in the Torah. It's talking about a shifcha charufa. A shifcha charufa is a woman that was designated to a slave, and somebody else committed adultery with her. So it says that if a man sleeps with the woman, v'hafte lo niftasa, and she wasn't redeemed. Now, why does it say v'hafte, she was redeemed, but then it says lo niftasa, she wasn't redeemed? So what does that mean? It says she was redeemed, but she wasn't redeemed. We darshan ora kala parsha kula l'loy chupasa. The whole parsha ends with that she wasn't emancipated, because this means that although hafte, although the woman was redeemed, she redeemed herself for money, but she wasn't released with a get shechra. So we say that loy chupasa, she's not considered freed, and the man that sleeps with her doesn't commit adultery, doesn't get the death sentence. So you see clearly from here, although she bought her freedom with money, but since she didn't get a get shechra, she's not free yet. Leimelach, shtar gaimerba, only the shtar shechra completes it. Ve'ena kesef gaimerba, but not money. Now this is not like Rebbe. Rebbe says you could either gain full freedom with money or with a shtar. Now here we have a machlokes who we paskin like. Amar Rami b'cham Amar Rav Nachman halach Reb Shimon. Do you need the shtav? Reb Yosef b'cham Amar Reb Yochanan ain't halach Reb Shimon. The halach is not like Reb Shimon. Ashkechei Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak l'Rav bar Shilta. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak found Rav bar Shilta d'avikoy apischa debate tefillah. He was standing by the door of the shul. It's interesting, the lashon debate tefillah. That's a very rare lashon. Amalei halacha or ein halacha? Is the halacha like Reb Shimon or not? Amalei ani omer ein halacha. I say that the halacha is not like Reb Shimon. But the Rabbanan, the Asim of Mechuzah, the rabbis that came from Mechuzah, Imrei, Amar Rab Zeir, Heid Rab Nachman, halacha. V'chi asoy l'sura, when I came to Surah, Ashkaktei l'bchir ba'avin, Amalei, Amalei, Ize Gufa to Uvda Hechi Have. You know something? This final Gemara we will save till tomorrow. Whether the halacha is, how do we know that the halacha is like Reb Shimon, that you need a shtashich or not like Reb Shimon? We'll save this next for tomorrow. Rabbi said we have a big simcha now. I don't know if the real Olam realized that we have a simcha this evening, but we start Masechta Sukkah tonight.